First of all, I am big thanks to our company secretary, Mr. Ashutosh Kulkarni, and his team. Especially, at my own instance, I had registered for the speaker, but yesterday I was trying to link was coming different. So Ashutosh himself gave me other links also, but today it opened nicely, because there was Hexaware. After Hexaware, I came here and it opened. I'm very grateful to the whole secretarial team for helping, because we are senior citizens, we find very difficult in online, but we have to be online. There's no other. This is much better than coming to the physical meeting. Thank you so much. Now, coming to the working is definitely very good. 75% dividend, that is 7.5% per share, and a good market capitalization, of course, from previous shareholder also said from 14,000, it has come to 9,000. But what I feel, if we had gone for, I don't agree with the views of the second speaker. If it is split, then definitely for some time it will definitely show higher price, market cap. Of course, I leave it to the management to think what is best. But I can really congratulate you and the entire team for all the awards and accolades received during the year. Very good CSR work, and that is why our company is progressing. Now, my query is, what's the total number of shares, especially male, female, ratio, average age, and attrition level? How much of margins we enjoy? I just understand that in electrical insulations, there is the growth has to come, so margin is not so much. And the second business is electronics business. Here, I would ask you whether you are importing, especially are you using rare earth mineral or something from China? Could you throw some light, because now China says I will not export and all, so where we will be in this sort of situation, Then any challenges we are facing due to Trump's tariff policy and also geopolitical disturbances regarding, and especially on the cost side. And with cost going up, our margins may also go down, may have a pressure on margin. But I'm very happy that we have taken 30 acres of land in I think somewhere Gujarat, Baroj. And how much is the plan come up? And when will it start operations? And what sort of it will be more on the electrical insulation side or electronic? So what it will cater more? And how much is the capex? And how do we provide for the capex in the next 5 years? And the next question is R&D, especially in the new products and new applications. The percentage, I don't ask you the full figure, percentage allocated or to be spent on R&D. Of course, we are ESG. Are we listed on ESG dedicated platform? Because now everybody does the valuing of the ESG. With this, I support all the resolutions. I wish you and entire team all the best, and especially good health, because according to me, health is wealth. So I wish you, entire staff, and for health, so that, and once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to express myself and some queries I can see so that I can understand how much it is where we are. With this, namaskar. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth. So with this, we'll move to the next speaker. That is Mr. Sudhir Golecha.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First of all, a very warm welcome to our new MD, sir, Anurag G. Rai, sir. We wish to see Elantas achieve a great success under his leadership. All the best wishes to Anurag, sir, in this new journey.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Second, sir. Congratulations to the entire Elantas R&D team. Almost every other year, we come up with some new invention. Recently, we developed a new product, epoxy-based phase change material. Can you highlight the potential of this new innovative product, sir? Is it an alternative to potting material? By when will we commercialize this? Because Murugappa Group company is already way ahead and bullish in the phase change material business, citing enormous applications, sir. So my next question, I have a serious doubt. Electronics assembly business in India has skyrocketed in the past 5 years. Despite of this, our second segment is unable to scale up. Now, India is moving up the ladder in localization by getting into electronics component manufacturing scheme. So how should one understand our second segment? We believe it is more correlated with the growth of PCB assembling. It would be very helpful if you could clarify this doubt, sir. My next question, sir, we have done a capex of 140 CR this year, out of which 110 CR was for land purchase and Wonderol acquisition. I believe we already have idle capacity at Ankleshwar. So where did we invest the remaining 30 crores, sir? My next question, there was a huge increase in imports this year from 108 crore last year to 160 crore this year. What caused this? My next question, we are marketing our coatings and construction chemicals aggressively as well. How much did they contribute to our revenue in 2024? So in the annual report, we have mentioned we don't hedge commodities. Then how do we manage their fluctuations from effective our financials? My next question, there was huge increase in trade receivables by 23 crores and inventories by 22 crores. Why this sudden drastic increase, sir? Also, why was there a jump in purchase of stock in trade? 15 crore this year versus 3 crore last year. Sir, again on the epoxy-based phase change material, I think it's a game changer for data center cooling solutions, sir. Can you please throw some light on this as well, sir, please? And I missed to add one question. Altana is coming up with a new cross-divisional site, sir. We have already got the contract manufacturing for Actega. How does Elantas Beck India Limited stand to benefit from Altana's cross-divisional site, sir? So these are my questions, sir. So the next device is of my brother Harshit Kolecha. So he'll continue from the same device, sir. I'll just pass on the device to him. He'll ask the questions on the same device.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Very good morning, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'll start the question. With the acquisition of Wonderol, we have now got new products in our portfolio like voltage resins, insulating tapes, composites, etc. I would like to understand the size of the insulating mica tapes market. I believe it goes only into a flat wire. Sir, are we making them in India or we are importing and selling? There are many established players in mica tapes in India. Are we open to any inorganic growth there? Could you also give us brief understanding as to how well are we positioned in the composite business where Wonderol has great expertise? Sir, have we started seeing any traction in battery energy storage system business, printed electronics and cubic ink, etc.? Given the new business potential we possess, how would you prioritize them in the order acceptance seen in India? Composites, printed electronics, thermal management. We did 32,500 metric ton this year. how much was from first and second division, sir? What is our installed capacity and for how much tons of CTO consent to operate do we have, sir? Are our plant and machinery fungible between the two segments? Because in page 172 of our annual report, the second segment shows only 3 crores of capex. Sir, Pidilite. Hello.
Yes.
Sir, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, you're audible.
Sir, Pidilite is aggressively expanding its electronics, insulation, and thermal management business. Is it setting up a manufacturing unit for the same in JV with Coltech? Few of our R&D members have also joined Pidilite. Many global giants like Henkel, Sika, Dow are also going aggressive. How do we look at the competition in our products as we are into low volume, high value business? And how are we differently placed amongst the competition, sir? Sir, how are things at ground level? Is it the entire geopolitical confusion going around a boon or a ban for the Indian electronics industry? Have we started to see consequence of this issue like customer supply constraints, etc.? Starting April 4, China has stopped exporting critical magnets which goes into motors, etc. Sir, if I remember 55 to 60% of our business comes from motors. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. How are we planning to mitigate this major setback? So my last question. Sir, Indonesia is coming up with a huge EV battery project of $10 billion. Are we also exploring export opportunities as well, sir? Thanks a lot, sir. All these are my questions. I request you to answer the question, sir. Thanks a lot. All the best to the entire Elantas team, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Mr. Harshit, Mr.
sir.
Sudhir is going to join the call.
No,
Or...
sir, we have asked these questions as well, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, okay, thank you. So I request the host to unmute the eighth speaker, that is Mr. Ashok Jain.
Hello.
Yeah,
Am I audible, sir?
yes, you're audible.
Good morning, everybody. This is Ashok Jain from Bombay. So the Indian government is shortly coming out with an electronic component PLI scheme. On page 16 of our annual report, we have said that electronic component business has good potential enhancement. Will this be a game changer for us? And the most important thing is, so can we participate in this PLI scheme? This PLI scheme will benefit a lot of EMS players substantially due to ongoing China-US tariff war. Going forward, can this scenario provide us with substantial business potential? So my next question, last year our volume increased by 10 to 11%. How much of this was contributed by all-round products for the part of the year? And what kind of business sales potential do we see by all-round products in the current year 2025? So my next question is, so Altana's AR annual report 2024 mentions about euro 80 million investment in multi-divisional plant in India. Out of this, how much Elantas Beck India is going to contribute? Because I suppose it's a contribution by Actega and Elantas both. So how much we are going to contribute? So my next question is, so what is the current status of Greenfield plant at Dahej and the timeline for the commencement of its commercial production? Because we already have pre-environmental clearance for that bio-industrial park. So how fast we can commence the production? So we got a CTO for 48,000 tons at Ankleshwar around 2 years ago. What is the installed capacity as Ankleshwar as of today? So in last 2 years, we have shown only around 6,000 to 7,000 tons of volume growth in sales. What are the major triggers that will help us, that will help increase demand to help us in utilizing the entire remaining capacity at Ankleshwar? Sir, our Pune plant where we are sitting today is in the midst of residential colonies and has a very low capacity compared to plant Dahej and current Ankleshwar capacity. As the industry falls into red zone, is shifting of Pune plant to Ankleshwar or PIP plant. Sir, on page 23, we have stated 4-5 technological absorptions for new resins which are planned to be absorbed in the current year 2025. Will this serve the emerging component PLI scheme, e-mobility expansion, area expansion, etc.? Sir, how big is the PCB coating market going to be the next few years if all goes well? On page 122 of our annual report, we have spent around 145 crores on purchase of property, plant, etc. Out of this, 10 to 12 crores has gone into buildings and roads, and 11.93, that is 12 crores in plant and machinery. Sir, is this 10 to 12 crores gone into building and roads uh, has uh, has gone into greenfield expansion site at Dahej, and the remaining 11.93 crore has gone into brownfield expansion site in Ankleshwar, because the remaining money has gone into uh, the, the land we have bought in PIP and what we have paid to one roll. Yeah. So as of 31/12/2024, we have kept 133 crore in deposits maturing in less than 3 months. This 133 crores has been earmarked for what purpose, and has a utilization of the said balance begun for the same? Sir, our Indian profile, our company has posted on our Indian LinkedIn profile, our company has posted that we have given solutions for energy meter protection to a leading Indian player. As smart meters have huge potential, is this business contributing substantially now? Also, on the Indian LinkedIn profile, we have mentioned about the revolutionary MyCare spotting system for EV batteries, onboard chargers, and offboard chargers. Sir, even this field has huge potential. What kind of volume consumption of our expanded capacity can be utilized for this business? Sir, printed electronics. Sir, as per media report, printed electronics growth seems to be exponentially high in the coming years. On Elantas Europe website, they mentioned that they are sole distributors for Saralan products in Europe. Will Elantas Beck India be sole distributor of Saralan products within India? Because I suppose Saralan has some other dealers also. So what kind of agreement we have with Saralan? The Saralinks will be needed for battery manufacturing and PCB manufacturing in high volumes. Can we distribute such Saralan products in India as Elantas Europe is doing in Europe? The crude prices have fallen substantially in 2025. Will it help us in enhancing our margin? Because last year second half was quite subdued compared to first half. So do we have construction chemicals that go into we do have construction chemical that go into dam repairing. Are we serving such clients currently? The last two questions. Thermal questions are indispensable for EV efficiency. How much quantity TIM in kgs per liter is typically needed per kilowatt of 50 kVA battery powered electrical vehicle? What is the pricing per kg or per liter of TIM subset for of products? And my last question, sir. Sir, our Warnol products are released in very large traction motors in railways and large turbines for wind energy production. Are we serving such clients in India currently? I hope, sir, you answer all my questions because we hardly have opportunity to meet the management. It's almost, sir, I'm a shareholder for last 7 years. And after Ravindra Kumar, we haven't met any management. We'll be very happy in case you meet one meeting with the shareholders at least once in a year, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Looking forward to your answers, sir. Thanks a lot, sir, and best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Jain.
Thank
Yeah. So I would request the host to unmute the ninth speaker, Mr. Dilip Jain. Moderator, Mr. Dilip Jain has joined.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The enamel flat wire market for high voltage rotating machines in the main wall insulations niche is poised to grow significantly, sir, going forward. Do we have mica based resins to cater to this high growth market? Volume growth last year was at 10% as per annual report. What is our internal target for volume growth this year? Elantas being a world-class R&D intensive company, I do expect something more than 10%, because competition is catching up thick and fast, and they're all similar size players. So, would like to know your views. And so my last question is, as per recent media reports on government PLI schemes, chemical additives were added on the products list that are eligible for production linked incentives. Now, with the expanded brownfield capacity at Ankleshwar that we have and plans to install an even bigger greenfield capacity, do we intend to participate in the PLI scheme as a direct beneficiary in the future? Thanks a lot for your time, sir. I look forward to the responses. Thank you very much. And my best wishes, our best wishes with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Dilip Jain. Yeah, thank you. I request the host to kindly unmute the 10th speaker, Mr. Ravi Mehta.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I've already sent a list of questions beforehand, so in interest of time, I would not repeat them, but just a couple of questions I would like to touch upon from the chairman's speech. One was on these electronics and component push that the government is having. So do we have products ready that can come from the parent to us, or we need to do some more development work into it? The other one was in the overall scheme of the global business, how is Elantas Beck India placed in the parent sourcing strategy? And lastly, you also spoke about an ESG roadmap. So are there any investments been marked for adhering to those? If you can just highlight some of these points. And I wish you all the best and supporting all the resolutions. And I also expect a good detailed answers to the questions being emailed, as it's only once in a year communication with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Yeah. I request the host to kindly unmute the 11th speaker, Mr. Yogesh Patil. Moderator, kindly check. Mr. Yogesh Patil has joined. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Yogesh.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you
Yeah.
audible.
Uh, Good morning, everyone. Just a few questions from my side. Since most of the questions are actually repetitive in nature, but still, uh, Sir, regarding volume growth, what is the volume growth last year and current capacity utilization? And how do we figure out the capacities basically? Because we have so many different products. My second question is why subdued growth and low margins in electrical insulation? Because user industry like transformer, auto, EV, etc. growing at decent pace. And we also facing, are we facing any kind of competitive pressure in this segment, or are we losing market share? Third question is basically volume growth from new products and existing products in last 3 years. Because now the power sector actually revived in last 4 5 years compared to last 10 years. So is there any organic growth from old product? And based on your assessment and discussion with customers, what kind of growth we can expect? And top five business drivers user in terms of user industries or companies, because considering the India's potential and what is the growing in power sector and everything is growing, but it is not reflect in our current performances. Yeah, thank you very much. That's it from my side.
Yeah, Mr. Patil, thank you. I request the host to kindly unmute the 12th speaker, that is Mr. Shreya Lonkar.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, Ashutosh. So I won't repeat the questions that I've already sent, but we'll make a earnest request to Mr. Roy if he can answer those questions a little bit more patiently, because many a times the annual report doesn't reveal as much as we wish to know as shareholders, and we take a lot of effort to visit your stalls on exhibitions and try to read a lot of global content to understand what Elantas Beck could mean and how the future could look like. And Mr. Roy, I mean, for you, this is the first time we are interacting. We've interacted before in your earlier role as well. Would love to hear how you considered joining Elantas Beck, your outside-in view and your inside-out view now, given that you've seen it all. Would love to hear something about that journey for you till here. The third aspect was I'll just take 2 or 3 questions which I've missed mentioning in the document which I had sent to Ashutosh. But if you can help us understand, there are multiple sister companies of Altana in India as well. If you can help us understand how is the chemistry overlap between the divisions and where we can synergize with them, because to the best of my memory, I believe the manufacturing footprint that we have is the largest within the Altana group. So just wanted to kind of contextualize that. And in relation to the same, we did buy a 30-acre land, and congratulations to that. We've been waiting for it for really long. But also alongside that, has other divisions of Altana or Altana also bought an adjoint piece of land? So that clarification would help. Third, given that the land parcel is pretty big now, how should we, maybe 5 years out, how will your factory footprint look like? Because right now you have Ankleshwar, Pimpri, a small setup in Pimpri, and then this mega plant that will come up. So if you can help us understand how will it eventually reorganize itself once things are kind of commissioned at the new site. The other bit is, you come from the CDMO world, Mr. Roy. If you can give us an idea whether our products, are they exportable by nature? And if so, then the way India is taking, moving ahead in becoming the backyard for a lot of R&D intensive products in the chemical and the pharma chain, do you think we have a role to play there, either for Altana Group or otherwise? And just the last request, which I have mentioned, but I'll repeat, would really love to, we've been very good in corporate governance, but the only aspect on corporate governance that we lack at is a regular information flow, or at least an analyst meet of sorts, where you can at least, help us understand the company better. And these are just sincere efforts. Been a shareholder for long enough. But this is something that if you would do, it would just you would rank pretty much out there with other MNC companies who already do this. With that, that will be all. All the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lonkar. Now I request the host to kindly unmute the 13th speaker, Mr. Keshav Garg. Yes, Mr. Garg.
Yes. Sir, thank you for the opportunity. Sir, most of my questions have been asked by other shareholders, but sir, I just wanted to understand regarding our business and how do we see it going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sir, on the margin front, sir, where do we see our margin going forward with new product additions and increasing our addressable market, sir? Can we expect our margins to be steady at these levels at steady state, or as the cycle turns, can we expect our margins to go downwards? Sir, what is the maximum revenue potential that we can generate at full capacity utilization, and what would be our current utilization levels? Sir, we have tried to get into new segments and new product markets over the last few years. Sir, what kind of growth drivers can we expect from this other than our core business uh, growth over the next 3 to 5 years? Sir, what would be our capex plans for the next 3 to 5 years? Sir, how are we seeing competitive intensity in the market currently? Are we seeing um, competition from local players increasing, or how is the competitive intensity? Sir, how are we seeing feedback from our customers? Sir, who would be our major customers and how are they panning out? Sir, what is the expected IRR or payback uh, is the minimum threshold that we require before embarking on any new capex or investments? And sir, in your judgment, over the next 3 to 5 years, sir, where do we see our business in terms of top line and bottom line? So these were some of my questions broadly. So thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you.
Okay. So we thank you, speaker and shareholders. So we have concluded with the session of asking the questions. So we have also received few questions on email from Mr. Nayana Punatkar, Mr. Sriram, Mr. Narendra Mirpuri, and Mr. Karan Sandhu, shareholders of the company. Moderator, there are some speakers who are left who didn't join. Can you just confirm that?
All speakers are covered.
Moderator, can you just repeat?
All speakers are covered.
Okay, thank you. So now I request Mr. Anurag Roy to kindly respond to various queries and comments which are made by shareholders.
Okay. Thank you, Ashutosh, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you. It's my first AGM. Really excited about the questions, a lot of questions, and looking forward to even addressing most of it. So I'll pick the questions starting with the first speaker. I'll go in that order as much as possible based on the notes which I've taken. So the first shareholder was Ms. Shah. She talked about the impact of the trade barriers, and that was one of the repetitive questions which I heard from other shareholders as well. That's one area where overall at an Eltana level, we are very closely monitoring the situation across all our geographies. One of the benefit for the Eltana group is right from the beginning, they adopted the localization strategy. They were businesses which were more focused on the regional setups. For example, manufacturing for a particular country. India, for the most part, all the manufacturing setups, to some extent, the supply chain, which are not global in nature, a lot of regions have developed that over a period of time. So even with this geopolitical situation wherein protectionism has kicked in, Eltana as a group is in the most favorable situation, I would say. But getting to more specific for the India businesses, Elantas India businesses, there have been 2 or 3 initiatives. One from the procurement side, which already started a year back, uh, wherein we have looked for a lot of vendor development locally. The supply chain or our dependence to China on some of the key raw materials, while it's still there, but it has significantly reduced over the last couple of years, if I may say so. So our exposure, even in the current scenario of trade barriers, is comparatively lower. That's one. Then, if you also look at the business over the last 3, 4 years, our business has also significantly moved from commodity to high value business, particularly in the electrical markets, which is the wire enamel markets. Lot of dumping or the imports which comes in from China is basically in the polyester, the low category market, where our again exposure is minimal. On the high value applications, our supply chains are fairly established. There's a good contribution of local vendors so who give an input to the product development. So again, we are fairly protected there. So those are some of the initiatives which are already in place for us to weather any storm which might come up because of this trade barrier situation. But however, saying or in spite of working on some of these points, we are closely monitoring the situation and will take all the steps as the things will emerge. On the positive side, actually, due to these trade barriers, what we are also seeing is softening of the raw material prices. There could be a potential, further easing of raw material prices and help our cost structures. But that also has a flip side that even in the markets, we'll have to pass on some of those prices and the overall realization could be impacted. So that's something which we'll have to take care of. We might also see some product coming in from China in the finished wire enamel segment, which is again more in the retail chain or the commodity market where our exposure is limited. Nevertheless, we might have some impact in our market share in the retail segment as well. So I took a little bit time to explain all the factors from the supply side and the market side because this is one of the important issue which we are closely monitoring and taking all the steps to mitigate the situation. The second question was on the cost efficiency piece. So that's clearly at the top of the agenda, one based on the current geopolitical situation and the current trade barriers and maybe the impact of some of the products being pushed to the India market. Uh, uh, so last year as well, our production capacities, there were several efficiency improvement products or projects which were taken. We have a team of R&D here, which is very well established. It continuously work both on the procurement side to lower the cost on the raw material, as well as continuously working on the BOMs or the norms of the products which we already have in the manufacturing to improve the efficiencies. So as we even go through the coming years, there'll be a heightened focus on cost efficiencies. And in future, once we have the new plant, and I'll talk more about our new investments in Gujarat, that will be one of the state-of-art chemical complex which we are planning to build, which will be built on automation, digitization, and I would say the world-class efficiencies will be inbuilt on all those plants. So on efficiencies, that's how we are planning to work through in the coming years. So I'll move on to the next shareholder, Mr. Bisani. He talked about the pressure on electrical insulation margins. That was the first question that in 2024 we saw subdued margins. Um, So in the electrical segment, if you look at our end applications, the biggest one is clearly the transformer, where there is clearly a good growth which we have seen. But the other major application segment is also the rotating machine segment, which is not, and particularly the industrial rotating machine segment, which we have not seen grow at the pace we would have thought it would. Uh, so transformer growing at say double-digit growths, the rotating machine segment, what we have seen at least in last year, growing at only 3 to 4% growth rate. So at an overall level, the growth which we could realize from all the application segment was averaging, say, 1.5 times the GDP growth. And based on that, there was the margins which were realized. So that's one aspect on the top line. On the raw material side also, you all would have realized that in the second half, particularly of the year, there were some of the key starting materials for C1, C2, C3 chain across the chemical industry, wherein there was a supply shortage issues. In one of the raw materials, there were few plants that were shut because of lowering of China raw material prices in US and Europe as well, which led to alpha supply situation in China for that KSM and led to almost 3x increase in the prices, which we were not able to pass it on in the market in that proportion. And those were, I would say, a couple of major reasons where we saw some subdued margins. Our strategy to mitigate that is efficient procurement, which I talked about earlier. We are also working on developing the local source. That's a second initiative. And the third initiative is, driving more to the value-added products for better differentiation and getting to higher margins in the coming year. The next question from Mr. Bisani was on bond roll. As you all might be aware, bond roll acquisition happened at a global level a year back, and the integration with India business, the bond roll India with Elantas India, happened from September 1st, 2024. So in 24 numbers, the impact of bond roll revenues was from last quarter, say from October to December. It is at a global level a very strategic acquisition. And even for India market, it's a very opportune acquisition for us, wherein we get access to now high voltage market. But you also have to realize while bond roll presence in Europe, US, or some of the developed economies, if I may say so, they have a bigger market share. Still, the resin, high voltage resin, is the nominal size business in India. But now with our resin competency, which Elantas India has, and integration of these resins, we are in the process of actively putting together the go-to markets to see how we can further leverage the potential of this acquisition or integration in India operations. Particularly two applications which some of the shareholders also mentioned in the renewable energy, specifically in the wind energy. These high voltage resins has a significant demand, which we are tapping into. And then second is the traction motors for railways, which we are also actively focusing on. So these two application markets will be our biggest growth drivers in times to come for this bond roll piece. There was a comment made on inventory receivables being high in 2024, and again, that was because of bond roll integration into Elantas business. There was a question on competition market share. As most of the shareholder might be aware, in most of the sectors or the product segments we play in, we are the dominant market share. For example, in the wire enamels, we are close to 50% market share. If you look at the low voltage side, we are almost close to 70% market share. On high voltage one roll products, we are roughly around 30-35%. In the electronic segment, you might have heard in the previous AGM, our addressable markets were 8,000 to 10,000 metric ton, and our market shares were close to 20-25%. So if you see, and that was what was being asked, that where do we stand with this competition and our market positioning? So in most of the sectors where we have an established presence, we have been a market leader, and the endeavor from the management is to protect that market and focus a lot on innovation, customer proximity, so that we maintain these barriers to entry to lose the market share. On the newer application segments like electronics, we are still at 20-25% market share, but looking at the growth rates, looking at some of the development work which has been done over the past and in the coming years, we expect to get qualifications in a lot more OEMs and the tier one manufacturers and significantly improve our market share. And then I think the final question from Mr. Bisani was on board meetings, stock split. So I think my comment there would be we'll get back to all of you as per the decision, but as of now, there is no stock split decision on the table. So if I now move on to the next speaker, yeah, Mr. Agarwal, yeah. We'll see his questions. Just
Here's a list of all the questions that
and this. I think he has sent the questions.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I got it. So, Mr. Vinod, your questions were primarily financial in nature. One was on the dividend. You had asked whether why the company is not planning to give more dividend. See, your company is planning for future investments. We are plowing back all the profits, the cash which we have for the future investments, future growth, because the end market where the Elantas India plays are the most opportune one. Like if you look at the specialty chemical space and the end markets we are in, right from say transportation to power generation and distribution to now high voltage renewable markets, railways, all these segments are growing at such fast pace in India that the best decision is to plow back all the cash for the future investments. So with the new site which is coming up, we expect CapExes to happen and we want to invest in future. The other question was on your land purchase. And this was again a repetitive question from a lot of shareholders. Overall, at an Eltana level, they have pledged 80 million euros at a group level for setting up a manufacturing base in India. Out of that 80 million euros, roughly 35 to 40 million euro, I would say closer to 50% is earmarked for Elantas, because among all the businesses, ours is the most process-driven, closer to chemical business. The others are more into milling, formulations, operations mode. We also have formulations, but we also have the process side of the business. So roughly 50% of the total commitment is for Elantas. And so far, we have purchased, Elantas has purchased the land. The remaining businesses are in the process of purchasing the land, which we are expecting should happen soon. And in the next few years, we should have all those facilities coming on board. Particularly for Elantas, if you see, we are in a state wherein on the land, we have done the leveling, we have filed or in the process of filing all the environmental clearances. The teams are on the table to discuss all the product portfolio that will get into that land parcel. There's been a lot of discussions on the cost efficiency piece, which some of you raised earlier, that how we get into those sites the best in class processes, which gives us, the optimized batch sizes, cycle times, and that work is currently been done at a local as well as support from the global level. And then we have already qualified a basic engineering design engineering company. We are in the final stages right now. So we expect another 6 to 7 months before we get all the environmental clearances, and then 18 to 24 months for the construction. So broadly, that's the timeline which we are looking at before we commercial at the new site for Elantas India operation. And one of you had also asked about the synergies, and that was a great question. In fact, that is one of the projects which has been going on at Eltana level from last 1 year. And from last 4 months, that is the first project which I'm owning at an Eltana level for investments in India, where we are evaluating all the synergies right from manufacturing operation side, uh, also on the functional side and on the procurement side. So if you look at the processes for all the different divisions who will be investing here, the product portfolios are very different. Even, the batch versus continuous processes or formulation versus process driven manufacturing, the dynamics are very different. But there are very clear areas, particularly say in solvents uses, particularly in the utilities requirement, or the general synergies areas around the functions, where we could leverage a lot of benefits, not only on the financial side, but also on the strategic side. So that work is also in progress. And if our ambition to build a world-class chemical site here fructifies, that will be the world-class site which Eltana would have across the globe. So that's an update on the land piece. So I think those were the top 2, 3 questions from Vinod. There was again a repetitive question on the margins, why the margins were challenged, which I already addressed earlier. There was a question on capex as well, which was when asked that how much was the capex last year. We had spent roughly 140 crores. So most of it was towards purchasing of land as well as the Von Roll acquisition. And the remaining 30 crores was for brownfield development and in Ankleshwar site, and some of the modifications in our manufacturing plants. And there was also 4 to 6 crores, which was even spent on the EHS activities from the capex side. So if I, yeah, so the next shareholder was Miss Elizabeth. She asked about when will be the new plant coming up. I already addressed that. Total employees, I think Elizabeth was asking how much are the total employees and what is our diversity uh, number there. So we are at 223 employees, and you should get this information in our annual report as well. Females are 22, so roughly at 10% females, and remaining are 201. So we are at 10% diversity right now. There was there was a comment or question asked on ESG platform, and there I would also like to take a minute to abreast all the shareholders that Eltana at a group level have a very strong commitment towards sustainability. In fact, in line with the Paris Agreement, they have picked up and they have also committed to SBTi, and they have picked up very clear goal and have even announced it in Europe um, to the bodies, regulatory bodies, that they will declare themselves as emission-free, net zero emission company by 2050. Um, so what that means is around all the three elements of sustainability, say scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, there'll be a tremendous amount of work which is expected by all the businesses in the coming years. What does it mean for Elantas? While the work was already going on, but as we move into this year and subsequent year, there are very clear targets which have been incorporated uh, even in the KPIs of all the senior leaders, even in all the geographies, to move towards this particular goal. If I zoom in now, what does it mean for Elantas India? In the scope 1 category, which is basically direct emissions, Elantas India has already been working on a lot of initiatives, such as looking at biomass, setting up biomass in Ankleshwar site. We are waiting for our ECs to come in there, which will significantly cut our scope 1 emissions from the current level. Over the last 3 years, we had already cut, say, 30 to 40% emissions, but it will further go down. On the scope 2, which is indirect emissions, which are coming from outside source of electricity, which we take, we are looking at the renewable energy sources. We have incorporated renewable energy solar in our corporate offices in Ankleshwar to the extent possible. And in the new site, which will be coming up, we are strategizing right now how to build that site at 100% renewable levels. So that's a work on scope 2, and scope 3 is much more wider, which is across the value chain. Like it includes the suppliers, your end customers, and emissions in the entire chain of products which you work on. And those activities are still at a very nominal level, but Elantas, along with other divisions, has now pledged to move in that direction from this year. So very solid foundation on the ESG, and I think we have also released the report, sustainability report. I'll urge all the shareholders to even look at that. It will show our commitment towards sustainability. At a product level also, what we are also doing is moving or at least thinking to move away from solvent-based chemistries to more water-based chemistries. In fact, in the low voltage applications, we are working very closely with some of the OEMs to launch those products in the market. So all that is a very brief snapshot on the sustainability commitment which Elantas India and at a global Altana level has. So let me move on to the next speaker now, which is Gulesha. And I think you had a lot of questions, which I can see you had sent over the email as well. Yeah. So thank you for the warm welcome. You mentioned about that. One of the questions were on the PCMs, which you talked about. So if you look at the PCM, and you also spoke about Murugappa Group, which is very bullish in the PCM business. See, it's a very unique material and it has number of applications, and the PCM properties could be achieved from different chemistries. So one specific chemistry is, the paraffin-based chemistry, which you will see a lot of companies adopting it. Those are very, I would say, commoditized chemistries, and they present other risks such as flammability. So we also reviewed that, but we are internally working on other technology platforms to see which one will be the best suited. and studying those technologies to tap into specific applications in PCM. So that was one. Then other thing you talked about electronic assembly business is skyrocketing in India. Why Elantas India is not growing at maybe similar kind of pace, and I think that also came from various shareholders. So I think it's important to understand that, and I think in the previous AGM it was been told, and I have already mentioned that in an electronic segment, our addressable market was 8,000 to 10,000 metric ton, and we are aiming for 20 to 25% market share. So if you now dig deeper into some of the growth applications which you talked about, say e-mobility, right? So if you look at the e-mobility in India, what is happening is a lot of these assembly systems for e-mobility are still coming from outside India, and the companies here are just picking those assembly systems and putting it in their vehicles. And that is the reason the local demand for these resins have still not come up at that fast pace if you just look at the e-mobility growth rates. So that's clearly one of the reasons. The second important point is India market is very unique. If you look at the e-mobility segment, the four-wheeler segment has still not kicked off because the ecosystem for electric charging, it's still under development from the technology side. The companies are still evaluating the right platform to go with. So earlier forecast that it will kick off at a pace uh, from 2024. I think it's been a little bit pushed, and our assessment is around 27, 28. We should see some movement in the four-wheeler. But on the contrary, if you look at the two-wheeler and three-wheeler markets, that's where the e-mobility scope is, and that's where there is a huge adoption and also a push of resin even from Elantas in that particular segment. But that's comparatively a smaller size segment as compared to the four-wheeler, and our presence and our growth for the most part is coming from that segment in India. So that would explain why, overall e-mobility growth is not matching with our growth. Um, I can assure you that it's an initiative which has been looked at Elantas global level. Uh, as a company, we are very deep into automotive and transportation applications, and we are doing everything from the development side to get to the maximum share as we move forward. So that's on the e-mobility side. The next question was on one roll, which I already explained or addressed. Then the other question was on a similar application market, which is the energy storage system business and the printed electronics. So printed electronics is also one of the important segments for Elantas India. There are active team members focused on getting opportunities within that segment. Again, the market is still at a very nascent stage. There are a lot of qualification work which our teams have done with the end users, whether they are tier one manufacturers or OEMs, but it's still at very nascent stage, and we are trying our best to continue to penetrate into that market. On the battery storage, clearly that's the next growing segment. Um, and all the big companies in likes of Adani's and Reliance Pro, they all are getting into that segment. And Elantas India is also in few cases tech transferring some of the products and technology, or currently reviewing it to bring it into India market to leverage growth in that particular segment. But even the end users currently are in that phase where they are still trying to zero in on what technology platforms. They're also looking at batteries which could be lighter weight. So those kind of discussions with the team with our application development and R&D centers are currently going on. In few cases, we have also started the qualification. So that's a futuristic application which in the coming quarters, months, or I would say years, should kick off and could offer good opportunities for Elantas India. Then I think there were questions on printed electronic, thermal management, composites. The printed electronics is an important segment for us. Thermal management, thermal sector is also important. I would say composite is one of the segments which is important for us, but our strategy there is not to go all out across segments because that's not where Elanta's India competency lies. So we are defining our niches in those segments and then appropriately making that play. Then there were questions on the capacity at Ankleshwar, where you mentioned that we have how much was the capacity this year? So we have at Ankleshwar roughly 30,000 capacities, which subsequently we can debottleneck and take it up to say 34,000 metric ton over the next couple of years. And as I was mentioning, then we are also investing in the new site. And as a part of our de-risking strategy also, any further increase in the capacities as of today we foresee coming from the Dahej site. You also asked about our plant and machinery being fungible. In few cases, yes, and that's why you also saw one of the capexes which was very small, the 3 crore. So our teams, internal teams at the plant level, so there are two broad schemes in the plant, as you would imagine. One is a continuous line, which particularly pertains to the wire enamel business. There's no modifications in those lines. And then there is a batch processes which caters to almost 300 or 400 SKUs, which we have for Elantas India. So what happens there is, in this batch processes, the equipments are very fungible. So the teams continue to come with newer ideas, how with minimal capex, you could generate the capacities in line with the demand pattern. And that's why you had seen some fungibility in our manufacturing setups, which you talked about. I think you asked about 140 crore capexes that I've already addressed. 110 was for one roll and land purchase. 30 crores was for brownfield and ongoing running business capexes. Then there was a question on why don't we hedge commodities and how do we manage the fluctuation. If I may say so, when I also came on board, I had a similar question. But later I realized that at Eltana level, the diversity, geographical diversity, gives us a natural hedge, at least on the procurement side. That was one argument for that. And then second, I think on the financial side, we tend to focus on creating the value for the business, value for our shareholder, rather than getting more active on the trading or the hedging side. So those are the two arguments I can put to address that question of yours here. High receivables were all because of on-roll acquisitions. You also talked about Pidilite aggressively focusing on electronic insulation and thermal management business. So again, I think I've mentioned that our electronic business, 20-25% market share, our addressable niches have an overall, the addressable market for 10,000 metric ton, and we continue to show the double-digit growth in that particular segment. Geopolitical situation, we discussed about that in the tariff barrier question, which I addressed. So as of now, I would say Elantas India particularly is in it's in a situation wherein most of the risk, geopolitical risk, are very much within the control, both on the procurement side, both on the customer relation side. But we continue to monitor that situation and will take all appropriate steps to mitigate the situation and continue to work on the growth rates which we have worked on for the past few years. So that was Mr. Gulecha's question. The next question was from Delhi.
Mr. Ashok Jain.
From Ashok Jain, yeah. So the first question was on PLI schemes, and I think that was again a question asked by several of the shareholders. Very important point. So the PLI schemes encourage the OEMs and the tier one manufacturers and their suppliers to source the components and the material with local value addition, right? So several of these OEMs, what they have already started doing is they've started focusing on scouting the right supplier in India who could actually do that value addition either on their components or on the resin side or the material side. So we play on the material or the resin side, and clearly that puts us in a very good situation to leverage that particular initiative. I may also say that PLI scheme offered by Government of India is also factored in as one of our growth drivers for future. So to finish that point on OEMs and tier one manufacturer, as we speak, there've been few OEMs who have even visited or audited our setup to get the PLI schemes. And we are very closely working with the customers and also keeping an eye on the details and depth of these schemes which have been offered. And that will particularly benefit us in the electronic segment. The next question was on one roll, which I already addressed. Again, to repeat, and I think that was your third question, the railways, the traction motors for railways is a big market in the high voltage segment, which now with the Elantas depth and the sales prowess which we have, we should be able to look at, getting into those markets. And then the second one is the wind energy piece. So those are the two applications which Elantas at an overall level through one roll acquisition is now studying for the India market and understanding how further we could grow our share in those segments. There was questions on investments expansion, which I've already addressed. The CTOs on Ankleshwar, we talked about. While our CTO is for higher capacities, our right now plan is to scale it up to say 35,000 metric ton. And as a part of our de-risking strategy, we'll then further expand in the Dahej site. Pune site at Pimpri is also strategically very important for us because the lot of knowledge base for the formulated products and different SKUs which we manufacture lies here. So we continue to, and I think that was also one of the questions. So we'll continue to leverage those knowledge base and strengths from our Pune facility. But considering it's very near the residential zone, we have not planned any expansion for the Pune capacities. So that's the status on the capacities.
Technology, yes.
Yeah, then there were questions on technology absorptions. So the technology absorptions, you were looking for the factors for that. Typically, for any tech transfer which happens from global to India could be for various reasons. One, to upgrade our existing products. That's one. Second could be sustainability. If you want to get into water-based solvent, water-based formulations, there's already a lot of work which has happened globally. So we are reviewing technology transfer in that bucket. Then the new growth opportunities, the power generation area or the e-mobility area. is where you would see a lot of these technology transfer. And the final thing which we discussed on the PLI front as well, there are some opportunities which are coming almost on immediate basis. So if we go through the development cycle route, it might take us longer. So in order to tap the growth or some of the push coming from the new PLI scheme, there have been few products which we are also tech transferring on fast-paced basis in India to tap into the growth opportunities. Then there was another question on the PCB coating market. So if you look at the PCB market, it's very complex. On the PCB, you could have a situation where you have no coat at all, or you have hermetically sealed that to the thin film or to thick film. That's the second option. Or you could do the potting. So if you look at PCB, those are the different options which you could do with the resin. So it is not possible for us to tap into all those markets. So as such, we define very clear niches based on our product portfolio where we could tap into those sub-segments of the PCB. And that, basis global specifications some of the OEMs have and the product and technology available, we address that particular market. Then I think the next one other question was on the expansion, which we have addressed in detail. There was a small question on 133 crores in deposit, which is maturing in 3 months. Why we have done that? We would say that it's a temporary restructuring of our capital structure, considering the volatility in debt and equity market, and that's why we parked that fund, but that was on a temporary basis. Then there was a question on the smart meters, which is again very interesting question because that's clearly an area of interest which is emerging for Elantas India, and we are consistently monitoring the development in that particular market. Also, the government initiatives, because there's a huge push from government to move towards the smart meters now, and the policies and the implications of those on the product need and the specifications of the resin eventually which will go in those smart meters. So Elantas is very closely working with the customers and several manufacturers in that particular area. But also important to mention again, if you just pick up the growth rate of smart meter and then say that why are we not growing at that pace? It is important to realize some of the smart meters may not require resins as well. So that evaluation we are also doing. So, but clearly that's one of the areas which will give us a potential opportunity for growth in future. On printed electronics, again, I already talked about it that we have carved out a separate team members who are solely focused on working in that particular area. Sarilon product, one of you, or I think Mr. Jain talked about Elantas Europe is a sole distributor for Sarilon. Elantas India, we are here not the sole distributor here. So that's the answer to the other question. There was a question on crude prices. How will it has softened? So how will it will impact? So clearly, if we look at the raw material which we use as an overall portfolio, there are few products which has a direct link to the crude prices. So to that extent, the pricing on some of those raw materials or key starting materials will come down. It might have eventually, if we need to pass on those prices to the customers, it might have some realization impact in the market. But at an overall level, I would say again our exposure So too much of crude price reduction is very minimal. You also talked about the thermal systems and how much quantity of interface material, which is TIM, is needed. I would say, again, it depends. There cannot be a particular number you could put there because OEM and tier ones, they take several approaches for thermal management. Um, Few of the OEMs will just do the simple air-cooled systems, very basic ones. You just put the cool systems and that's a thermal arrangement they have. But others use very different technologies. Again, it depends on customer awareness, understanding applications, the compatibility, performances. So it's very difficult to give X kg of resin on a thermal system.
I think you have to. So
And then I think those were the questions from Mr. Jain.
So Dilip
Coming,
Jain,
yeah, coming on to Mr. Jain, Dilip Jain, he spoke about one roll, or he wanted to ask about one roll mica products. So yes, as I mentioned again, mica tapes we are reviewing closely. Earlier, considering the way one roll was driven earlier was global in nature. All the decisions, even locally, were happening at a global level. Elantas has a very localized plus global business model. So now OneRoll being integrated into Elantas India, we are also reviewing the markets for mica tape in India. So if you look at the opportunity at a global level, it may not be that much, but at a regional level, it could be still significant. So to answer your question, yes, apart from the HV resins, we'll also be looking at mica tapes and evaluating the growth potentials for future growth. Then I think competitors and our market share, I talked about PLI scheme, I talked about. So I think most of the questions for the region are covered. The next speaker was Mr. Mehta, right? And he also gave us a question, right? So I will go to his questions. Um, you wanted to ask about the code development work and pilot done for our clients. See, specifically, obviously, we will not be able to share information of our customers or what work we are doing, but we can provide some insights on new product development engine. So as you might have observed, over the last 5 years specifically, the revenues coming in from the new product development are currently at 8%. So whatever revenue you see, 8% of that is coming in from the new products. This is almost 3x of what your company was doing, say, 4 or 5 years back. And our endeavor is to be among the best or among the most innovative companies in the world, which are roughly in double digit, I would say closer to 15%. So that's the journey which Elantas India is also undertaking. Then your next question was indigenization efforts on import. The imports have gone up. So this, I think I took it up in the trade barrier question that, our raw material portfolio, we have delivered to a larger extent from China. There have been a lot of initiatives happening where we are developing the local vendors. And concurrently, even our R&D have taken up some of the raw material development, which could be a substitute to the existing KSM. So there are a lot of those initiatives which are driving towards, indigenization and de-risking from China. You asked about electronic manufacturing, which I've already taken up on renewable. Yes, India, there's a huge push for renewable in India. Elantas at a global level, we are at a forefront. We are globally, the number one player, if I may say so, in providing the relevant insulating materials, specifically to the rotating machines and transformers which are used in this segment. And we continue to leverage the similar position in India. With the one roll portfolio now coming into us, we would also be able to tap into the wind energy um, um, growths in coming times. So that's on renewables. Then on EV, you asked about flat wires. So we spoke about, or I spoke about the EV growth rates, why the trajectory doesn't translate into the growth rates for Elantas, because a lot of the components are still imported into the country, and hence the resin uses in those components are being sourced globally, and the market doesn't buy it locally, say from India. Um, two, three-wheelers is the biggest market where we might even see a penetration going up to 90%, say by 2030. And that would offer huge growth opportunity. And those two, three-wheelers are the ones which uses this dual coated round wire and not the flat wire which you were talking about. So the flat wire growth will happen once the four-wheeler e-mobility market kicks off in India. It's growing. If you look at the numbers from a smaller base, it is still growing, but the quantum is still small. So if things open up in the coming years, then you will see a good amount of growth on the flat wire side as well. And you asked about the R&D strength. So within R&D, and I talked about the tech transfer piece also, but broadly, there are three major components in the way we look at R&D in India. One is the pure play blue sky development or the research, wherein our teams collaborate globally on projects which could be specific to the region or globally. So that's one pillar of R&D which we have. The second one is the application-focused R&D, wherein the teams work very closely with our existing customers, where we have dominant market share, and we continue to innovate or provide any unmet needs to the customer in that segment. So that's the second one. And then third one is more on R&D, which requires, just marginal innovation on a product level, or if we are bringing in a new product, and that team ties up very closely with the marketing communication team for any new product launches. So in these three segments, our R&D strengths lies. Then you also asked about thermal coating for battery. Yes, uh, we have qualified at few accounts there. Um, the important thing to remember there is, even if you could provide your product, it is also important to see in that battery what other components they are using, whether they are fire resistant or not, and whether this product which you're providing is cohesive with the other components in the battery. So in few cases we have qualified, but in a lot of other end customers, we were not able to qualify because of the product characteristics of the other components in terms of the thermal conductivity portion. Then in electronic system, you talked about the value addition. I've already addressed this. There were questions on the capacities, which we have broadly addressed. Yes. One role, which we have again addressed, right? Yeah. So that's
Mr.
for
Yogesh
most
Patil.
of the questions from Mr. Mehta. Then Yogesh Patil talked about the subdued margins, which I spoke about earlier. The volume growth on the last 3 years. See the way historically and maybe going forward, we look at the growth rates. One is dependent on the end application growth rates. But if you look at our end segments, they are predominantly transportation, then power generation and distribution, then industrial and consumer. And a lot of these sectors are also pegged with the GDP growth rate. So one of the exercise which we do very diligently is look at what are the GDP growth rates and estimates. While there are estimates, but relevant to these sectors, how will GDP growth contributes? So typically, the rule of thumb which I've seen after coming here is we kind of aim at 1.5x of the GDP growth rates for the volume growths in any particular year, and that's the basis at a broad level we use even for making our strategies and forecast. So that was on volume growth, and I think moving on to the next shareholder, Shreya Lonkar. Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for kind words, Mr. Lonkar. Yes, I'd worked in various dimensions within the chemical industry. Uh, the current Elantas India is more, I should say, downstream, since I've also worked on the process chemistry side, CDMO space, which you mentioned. You were asking about, how I feel coming on board with Elantas India. To be honest, last few years, specifically staying in the chemical or working in the chemical industry was extremely challenging, So looking at Elantas India's specialty chemical business with the kind of growth and the profitability all of you have delivered, it's a breath of fresh air, I would say, because the entire industry, due to China's, increased capacities and the global dynamics, it's in doldrums. You look at any sector, commodity chemicals, petrochemicals, agrochemicals, the pricing are at rock bottom, and there our endeavor was only on cost cuttings, how do we reduce your overheads? So very different dynamics, but Elantas India, I would say, within the specialty chemical realm, based on the innovation, based on the brand name and presence, it's in a very good situation the for most part. It is also immune to any China, giving us very tough competition. So those barriers have also been very nicely maintained. So it's my privilege and an honor to be part of all of you and driving this business. And I look forward to taking this business to greater heights. Um, what else? See, I think there was one other question again linked to my experience that whether we can expand into chemical pharma chain. Based on my understanding of business so far, uh, yes, there could be some opportunity on downstream side on key starting materials, whether we can start making that to have better cost advantage. And I believe those discussions had happened at Elantas or Eltana level, but there was a clear strategy that we'll not get into the core chemicals because that's not the strength area. But yes, based on my experience in the industry as well, we could potentially look at options of developing some of the vendors or the third party who could, develop some of these chemicals at cost-effective basis. So that's the only overlap I can see right now based on the questions you have asked. Yeah. So moving on to the next special national. Yeah, next next speaker, Mr. Garg, you had asked about the outlook for future. Sorry to say that forward-looking details we cannot offer, but I hope based on some of the trends I spoke about and the growth areas I talked about, you could see how we are looking at the future. Then you asked about what is the maximum revenue which we can generate at peak utilizations. And then you also asked about the capacity utilization. So our plants currently are at anywhere between 70 to 80% utilization, and hence also the need of future capacity expansion. While in Ankleshwar, we could scale up the capacities, but we are also mindful of de-risking and not putting all eggs in one basket. So that's why I mentioned earlier that at Ankleshwar, we would be looking at 34 to 35,000 metric ton peak capacities. Also important to understand the peak utilizations also are dependent on the product mix. As I mentioned, typically in a manufacturing setup, you will have a continuous line where you could, through cost efficiency, increase the output. But on the batch manufacturing setups, the utilization could vary significantly. So if your product mix changes, your utilization across reactors in the manufacturing setup will change. So very difficult to answer your question, when do we generate the peak capacity? But our endeavor is always to utilize all our reactors tanks to fullest. And our teams, I would say, historically has done a very good job in doing very small capex modifications to debottleneck further and increase the capacities. Then the capex plan for next 2-3 years, again, a little bit forward looking, but I can say that most part of the capex will go for our investments at new site in Dahej, Gujarat. That will constitute most of our capex, and then on ongoing basis on safety and sustainability, we continue to make our places safe. There have been initiatives on the process safety side. There's been initiative on making it fireproof. All the sites, fire extinguishers and all have been set up in Ankleshwar. Just getting started in Pune, we have completed that exercise. So there are few crores of capex which goes on from that perspective. How do we see business growing? Again, forward looking, but I've spoken about the trends which will give us a cue on how the business will be growing, right? So those were the questions from Mr. Garg.
Yes, and there were questions which have been from others which I received on the email, but I think we have addressed a lot of questions.
Yeah, so I think I've touched on most of it, and if there are any further questions which would require clarifications or detail, you might reach out to Ashutosh and we'll try our best to address it. So Ashutosh, so back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, there is a request from Mr. Shreyas Dorkar just now. So there are one or two questions which are not addressed. Maybe just we can quickly address that. Mr. Shreyas Dorkar.
Shreyas Dorkar.
Yeah. Electronics, then one room. Yes.
Okay, I think there was one on printed electronics. I think I addressed that, that we have a separate active team members which contributes to identify opportunities and participate in that particular market. Currently, the size of the market is very small with nominal volumes, but we have qualification done in few of the customers, and as the market will grow, that segment will also offer us opportunities. Then the question was on one role, which we discussed. What is the progress on less solvent intensive new product development? This also I briefly touched, particularly in the low voltage area. We have inbuilt, or we are launching formulations now in the market. We are working with few of the OEMs, wherein we are moving towards water-based formulations and moving away from solvent usage in those applications. So I also, from the sustainability side, I also talked about our endeavor that by 2050, we would be, looking at how to almost eliminate all the solvent uses in our process. So it's a big ask, but um, that's the endeavor or the journey which at a group level which we have undertaken. Land parcel we talked about, tech transfer we spoke about. I think one question over the past year, our realization per ton has grown 2%, whereas EBITDA has grown 7%. Would that be fair to say that next 5 years EBITDA would outgrow realization? So forward looking again, but obviously with whatever I spoke about, the market drivers are very much in favor of Elantas India. The teams here are very knowledgeable and very motivated, and there is no reason, why we cannot grow at the same pace or even better pace in times to come. Then I think historically in very few years we see decline in NSR per ton and EBITDA per ton. I think we have picked up this question. You asked about my vision for Elantas Beck. I would say, to continue to strengthen our market leadership position, most important thing is the segments where we have leading market position. How do we maintain that market position? Because on daily basis, there are competitors who are trying to take the market share from us. So maintaining our market leadership position in electrical insulation would be one. And then second, my vision would be that we take the entire market to next level of innovative products, because that's also will automatically create the market barriers. So if you are the market leaders, what more you could do, right? You could shift the market and innovate it to a level that you create the next level of barriers. So focus on innovation, clearly on sustainability, and creating more value for all of you, our shareholders, for our teams here is what my vision and endeavor would be. And as part of corporate governance, deeply appreciated can do a half-yearly conference call or plant visit. So I think Ashutosh, our company secretary, will take that up.
Yes. Yeah. I think we have answered the questions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So,
took a little bit longer, sorry. But I think there was a request from everyone that
I think there is clear evidence that the leadership in the company continues. When we talk about knowledge in a complicated industry like ours and in a sector like ours, you can see that Anurag in less than 6 months has picked up not only where the industry is heading, but where we are heading. And as in the principles of transparency and governance, has explained to you very clearly how we are dealing with trade wars, how we are dealing with expansion, how we are dealing with local competition, new products, the nuances of magnets not being available from China in motors, to flat and round wires and maybe flexible wires at some point of time. So there is clearly hope and good times to come, I would think, based on what I heard today. Now coming to the end of our meeting, I authorized Ashutosh, our company secretary, to conduct finally the voting procedure and conclude the meeting. This e-voting facility will remain enabled for the next 15 minutes. So the members who have not yet casted their vote already, you can do so now in the next 15 minutes. The results would be announced by Ashutosh on or before 2nd May, and the Bombay Stock Exchange will be intimated and it will be uploaded on the NSDL. With your consent, the board members and I would like to leave the meeting and taking a cue from what Celestine Elizabeth said, I wish all the members a very healthy and safe future. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Stop the recording.
Sagar,
Yes, sir.
what you said?
Stop the recording.
No, I said I was texting to stop the recording.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the meeting end time is taken as 12:37.
Yeah.
And e-voting will be kept open for another 15 minutes on NSDL e-voting platform. Now we will close this WebEx link. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sagar. Thank you for support and focus.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We have to wait for the 15 minutes.
नहीं ठीक है
Ashutosh sir, shall we close the link?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. But voting would continue, right?
Yes, it will continue for another 15 minutes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I think.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Tech support, please close the link.
Sagar, yes. Thank you.
But we